I'm really impressed that there's so many people here and it's so crowded because weather is getting better and better. There's excellent party in Plaza in Krakow. So I'm really impressed that you choose instead of going earlier to the party this talk. So yeah, really, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, but still this is the pub, so you can be there earlier. Especially that it's like the nice weather, especially if you compare to the morning when it was rainy, and now it's like a bit sunny as far as I can see through those windows, so yeah. Okay, I think that we may start. I see that there are still a few people in the back. There's a few chairs here, so go ahead and take a seat. Okay, so today I'll talk a bit about expectations connected with basically Agile and what can give us in terms of delivery of a software. And sometimes our expectation and our imagination about the world of Agile is quite different of the reality than we face on daily life. Sometimes we can do something with that when we spot the suspicious stuff. So my talk will be about that. So what the stuff are the signs that maybe we can improve something, and what is the cure to make things better. So let's start. And there will be a bit about anti-patterns as well, but also I would like to emphasize that when we are learning, so when we are like new in Agile world, there is nothing bad in trying new things and basically making mistakes. This is like the nature of stuff. So just don't be afraid, experiment, change stuff, amend stuff, and then go forward. The danger is that if you are not experimenting and you are just introduced everything by the book instead of amending it to your purposes and you stay that way, there is a danger that actually does not suit your organization. It's not suit the software that you are building, and you are like disappointed because the whole Agile stuff not working, surprisingly. But as I said, it's natural that we are making mistakes. Okay, a bit about me. My name is Kasia Mrowca and I'll be your host today. I'm really strongly connected with Agile community. Here in Krakow as well, I was co-organizer of Meetup, Agile Enthusiast in Krakow, the conference that was held in Krakow last year in the building next to this one. And also I'm supporting the Agile in Europe, which will be in Sofia this year in August. So of course, it's a really nice conference, so I recommend it. And also I'm part of Agile in Europe community. Professionally, I have experience in Agile like 4 years right now. Previously, I had experience with the more traditional way of project management. So I would say I have experience in both. So I can compare what is good sides and bad sides of both. And also I have experience in working in internal IT department as well as the external IT vendors, suppliers, you name it. Currently, I'm working again in an internal IT department delivering the software for company, and I will have to say it's slightly easier. Why? All your stakeholders are in one place. You don't have like multiple customers who have like different wishes, different needs. So again, the communication, if you are internal, is slightly easier than if you have several customers. But in both ways, in both kind of work, you can deal with that, and there is a plenty of opportunities to work in an agile collaborative way. And today I'll be talking about that and hope that I inspire you to make changes in your organization, because remember, human beings matter. What you did is matter, not necessarily the methodology you choose. And I strongly believe that there is no better or worse way of making the software. It's basically only how we adapt it to our needs and our organization needs. Again, everything, and the key concept of being agile is being able to adapt as well to the needs. And before we actually go forward, I have to say that Agile is like mainstream now. Everyone at least want to do Agile. So before I go forward, could you raise your hand if you ever heard about the Agile? Just heard. Okay, pretty much everyone. So in your company, please raise your hand if you are like doing, being, or trying to do Agile. Okay, almost everyone. I see that some hands are not raised. I don't know why. Maybe you are fall asleep already. It's quite late. Basically, you can see that we all knew that the Agile exists. We all knew that this is the magical cure for every problem. And if we do our software in Agile way, it would be brilliant. It would be fast. It would be, everything. In reality, really often we actually do iterations, and that's it in terms of the Agile. Rest is typical waterfall. We have requirements gathered 2 years ago. There is a backlog with 1,000 or maybe 100 user stories or whatever backlog items we have, and we just developing the code, and we are naming it Agile. And then after a few years of development, we are surprised that our customers actually are not really happy. So yeah, stuff like that happens, and we tend to use iterations, and this is actually good, and nothing more from Agile, and still call it Agile, and then we are disappointed that it's not working. And again, we have like common misunderstanding that we can have the standard project management principles like PM book principles, Prince2, you name it, combine it with Agile principles without even understanding them well. And then finally, we have new stuff which is called Agile project management, yeah? It's completely fair. We have project management, which is full of processes, Agile manifesto, which is actually against processes. We combine them, we have Agile management, and everything works excellently, and it's fine. The truth is that usually this is the first problem. So we think that if we have the process and we name it simply Agile, it magically works. And unfortunately, we have to first work a bit, change our culture in the company, and then adapt slowly to the new reality. And it's not easy. And we also usually don't understand or actually underestimate the power of the company culture. And it's not so easy that we just magically say, okay, now we are Agile, and everyone just suddenly be Agile. Maybe in our environment, so in IT development, it's slightly easier because we are going to the conferences and we understand what it's all about. But if we have silos in our organization, so we have development, testers, sales, marketing, and some other people in the chain, and we suddenly all tell them all, okay, now we are doing Agile, they'll be first of all afraid because they will think, okay, we are not needed anymore, and secondly, they will not understand, especially if someone only renames the processes, they will think, okay, actually nothing changed, maybe this Agile is not so bad. Yeah, okay, before we move forward, I have a question. How many of you know the Agile Manifesto? Just raise your hand. Okay, keep your hand up. Okay, and if you know the Agile Manifesto, who would like to just go here and tell the 4 principles? Okay, no hands up, so maybe smaller quiz. So this is the part of the one of the principles. Who would like to finish it? It's easy. You have the first part. So decide what it's like. Okay, I see the volunteer. Yeah. No, you're not. No. Okay, I see volunteer there. I'm not certain if it will be working. Yeah. Basically, individuals, people, human beings. Yeah, so this is this is actually the first principle. And when company want to switch to the Agile way of doing stuff, or being Agile, practicing Agile, or whatever we call it, we think, okay, what we can do? And the first thought, when we just type Agile in Google is Scrum. And what Scrum is? Scrum is basically a process. So instead of actually trying to get rid of the processes, we create new. And it's not bad because we are learning and the organization knew only the process way of doing stuff. This is actually like good first step. But like I said, the first step. We frequently forget that Scrum is again only methodology that tend to help us, and we have to adapt it to our purposes. And again, we forget that if we have Scrum only in the development team and the rest of people are still doing the waterfall, it's actually not making a lot of change for the company itself and for the product itself. So just imagine having the Scrum, but we have the backlog ready for the 2 years up front and no changes are allowed because we have, I don't know, requirements freeze. Not really adapting to the new needs of the environment, outside of the company. So this is the first stuff that we can think about. Another, tools. Okay, so we want to be agile. What we can do? Maybe we buy Jira, version 1. Yay, now we'll be agile. Not really. The tools can help us, obviously, but they are not actually the key point here. And obviously, this is the good excuse to start changes. Because if you stayed with the old process and you have no excuse to do something more, it's quite hard. And the tool is quite good excuse to start making changes and, could be the facilitator. But again, if we stop the whole stuff connected with adapting Agile on the tools, it just won't work. Okay, moving forward. This is quite easy, working software. Everyone wants to have working software. Before the talk, I have conversation on Twitter. Yeah, the software is almost working after finishing the story, almost. Maybe after finishing a few more stories, it will be working. So again, this is actually I could say, mistake from people like me, so the evil product people, because we write the user stories in that way that the software actually won't work after finishing the story. Sometimes I can excuse myself and other evil product managers that it's not really easy to divide the stories in that way that we have finished working software in the end, depending on the complexity, but still we should tend to the solution that is working at least after the iteration, not necessarily after a single story. Again, documentation itself is problematic because when you finish writing it, it's outdated. Actually, you still developing new features. The features have the correlations between other features. Sometimes if we have really nice clean architecture and, for example, microservices, and we have really nicely separated stuff, it's not a problem because we develop new feature, then it's not influencing the other, excellent. But especially if we have legacy software and we are adding more and more features, I don't discuss if it's good approach or not, then it's more complicated to have independent modules and independent stuff. So what we can do? Tomorrow will be Simon Brown's talk about really nice way of making the architecture graphs. I really recommend it. This is one way of having nice documentation in the diagrams way of your architecture. It's updating itself each time you are actually adding new stuff to the code. You have updated documentation in terms of the diagrams. It's really helpful because you don't spend time of amending it. If you have documentation that require a lot of work, it probably won't be maintained after several months or several days. Again, you can use the automated tests. It's really brilliant, especially after a few years when you find out that you have to change the feature, but you have no idea what it's doing. It's useful when you want to delete some kind of the functionality because it's not used. Again, if you have automated tests, you can actually check if nothing is broken. But tests are not working application. So if we have brilliant tests, but our application is not working, something actually is not really, really good. So again, we need to find a balance between the two. And if we, let's say, have an example, so we have the currency change in our application. We need only one test to check that. We really don't need 70 tests for that. And I've seen 17 tests for currency change with the, only one window. So yeah, so always you have to check where is the parity, where is the balance between the two. So my recommendation is, first of all, try to automate the way of doing the documentation, especially the development one. The second, write automatic tests in order to have at least the assurance that later on when you want to change something, something will turn red when you delete something important. And as well, it just supports you in the terms that when you want to make changes, they are possible. Okay, so we have the documentation, actually, lack of documentation, I would say. I'm not saying that this means that we shouldn't have any user documentation, because there are quite two different stuff. Users sometimes need some kind of the guidance, so this is totally understanding. And also I will talk about later on how to keep the requirements in the way that they are quite useful, and they could be like the part of self-documenting stuff itself. So hopefully we'll get there soon. Okay, customer collaboration. Yes. This is also like tricky stuff, because we think that if we email someone, this is the collaboration. And actually mailing and stuff are not really true collaboration. Again, if we have like excellent tools that allows comment stuff, we think that if we post comment and tag someone, this is the collaboration. We have to talk. I know, it's cruel. It's really cruel, but we have to talk with other human beings, because otherwise we won't understand them. And the most common misunderstanding between the development and business is not talking. Recently, I had the really funny situation. We were doing the integration between two systems, and we assumed that we need real-time integration. But later on, we were like chatting with the business people in the kitchen and asked them, okay, so how frequently actually you would like to have data? And they say, I don't know, maybe like once a day, once 2 days, because, we actually not run our reports so frequently, so once a day is like more than enough. So as you can imagine, integration once a day and integration near real time are quite two different matters. So yeah, it's worth to talk and ask questions up front doing stuff. Okay, responding to change. This is really interesting because we often are trapped in our roadmaps and other stuff like that. What I mean by trapped, it's really good to have the product vision. It's really good to have at least a bit orientation what we would like to achieve. But again, if we have detailed plan few years ahead, it's not necessarily the best way to do, because we have no possibility to amend and change stuff when we are doing them. Simply because if we start changing the features that we are working on, we are not be able to finish according to the plan. And then our management will be like really disappointed, let's say, that our estimations are wrong. Okay, quickly to wrap up this part and move forward to the stuff more tangible, just don't focus on tools too much. They're only to support you. Remember that there is a way to capture the bigger picture, not necessarily in detailed plan or user stories. If you have possibility to communicate with your customers directly, it's usually the best way, because you can actually find out what their needs are. If you can observe them during the work, again, this is really, really important in terms of understanding the needs. Because requirements, so the wishes of the customers, sometimes are really different from their needs, simply because they want to do their goal yeah, the stuff that they are paid for, and they try to find the shortcuts with the limitation of the existing system. So they don't know your brilliant software that you are building. So without actually observing them and trying to understand what they are trying to achieve, it's really easy to replicate the old way of doing stuff, which is not always the optimal one. Okay, and keep things small, because then it's easy to change them. So this is like quite obvious stuff, I hope. And we now will follow the common themes. So first of all, we all know the difference between the waterfall and agile. Still, we sometimes in the companies see something like that. So, of course, we have like the discovery and design phase up front. We gather all the possible requirements, and then we develop, test, develop, test, develop, test. If we are lucky, maybe we deploy somewhere in here, just maybe to check. But usually it's like deploy, develop, test, develop, test, develop, test, then finally we can deploy it. So what is wrong with that? Actually, as if it's the first step of making Agile, it's quite fine. But if we stop like here and start calling it Agile, it's basically quite awkward. Why? Because here is no place for feedback. So we actually don't know if we are developing the right stuff. And also we have like no point of validating our assumptions, because again, we are human beings, and even our product owners are human beings. They could be wrong in terms of the writing down the requirements of designing the backlog. Again, time to market in that approach is really, really long. So this means that our competitors could deliver the software before us. And guess what? Usually if someone is first, it's really harder to enter the market as well. Especially important for the smaller companies, but even though if we are a big company and someone is quicker than us, that means that, okay, we lost our revenue, at least part of it. If we have short iterations and we are really able to deploy the software in smaller chunks, wow, this means that our customers can try it. Even though it's like not really finished product, so you can like maintain only one business process in that, means that they can try it, they can give us feedback. We can say, okay, just try our software for the lower price, or let's say this is like the beta version, so give us a feedback. This allows us to change if something is wrong. Again, we have time to amend the features. In that approach, we are building new stuff and have no time to finish or change the stuff that we started somewhere here. And again, usually we tend to build the really similar features after we deploy and discover the customers want something slightly different. And because we don't have the time, because we committed to the roadmap, we just adding the new stuff unnecessarily, and we are finishing with the software that have really 3 or 4 similar functionalities instead of one really good. And I don't have to say you, because of course everyone know that if we have really big amount of the features, it's really hard to maintain them as well. So yeah, feedback is important. Okay, so how about not planning at all? This is like really terrifying thought for everyone, because of course roadmap and roadmap commitment. So if we decide that, okay, we are committed to deliver this part of the functionality till, let's say, autumn, or even worse, we have the certain date, it's like really impossible not to plan at all. It's impossible not to plan if we have backlog, which is slightly big. And true story, recently I was talking with the product owners from the company, and they had like 10,000 user stories, and they were claiming that they are agile. And backlog size should be enough for one person to deal with. So 10,000, I think that you have to be superhero to deal with 10,000 of user stories. So what is the problem? As you can see, if you have a lot of user stories, you have no clue what is inside. So you are really terrified to delete them, because maybe there is something important. There is too many of them to even read those user stories and verify the priorities. So usually the priority is just random, or the priority is connected. Okay, this customer screams the loudest, so let's say take the requirements from him or her. Okay, so we see that this is like a lot of troubles, and usually the companies don't believe that we can get rid of the commitments and stuff. But yes, we can. And before we go to that, we should remember, okay, keeping the vision. So instead of having those user stories or epics really detailed with commitment, we can shorten the path, so shorten as well this path, and have the stuff called product tree, or there's a bunch of other stuff that actually help us to keeping the vision in a nice way, that actually don't indicate the time. Because the trick here is, if we have the timeline somewhere, so if we have even the same requirements in that format, or if we have the requirements in the order, the business people, okay, they want to have some kind of the certainty, predictivity, so they tend to think that this order reflects the time they will get the stuff. Again, we suffer here from the comparison to the buildings, bridges, and stuff like that, that are really, okay, buildings and bridges are really tangible. Software is not, because, okay, point me, where is the software here? I'm using the presentation tool, obviously, but where is the software, yeah? Is it the computer? No, it's machine. Is it this projector? No. So this comparison is really quite unfair because we cannot touch the software. It's really hard to measure it. So again, just don't support the way our business people perceive our requirements. Put it in a way that it's not really easily transferred to the timelines. So, okay, what we can do? Those leaves inside are features. Those branches here are the category or models. We can do it collaboratively with the people. I have separate talk how to do stuff like that, so I really recommend to watch it. And the all stuff that are here are like the future stuff. So we do them sometimes, somewhere. This is not the end because, of course, this should be like detailed because our features or requirements or whatever should be like one-liners at this point, just not too detailed again, because if you have detailed requirements up front, you have only managed them. If something changed, you have to change all 10,000 user stories. And this is like pointless. You need the army of the evil product people for the 5 developers, so no. So if you have the list of those lists with the one-liners, you have to decide, okay, what is the most important? This is the magic MVP. Everyone talks about it, and not a lot of people say how to do it. So one really simple way, we are taking the ROI and the one stuff that is really important for the company. So it could be like usability, it could be performance, it could be whatever, depending on your context. So always remember, when you're doing stuff, put the context here. In my case, it's like the making easier of the life of our employees easier. So, okay, so we prioritize them together with the business talking. Simply talking, again, scary talking with human beings. When we finish, clearly we can see what is the most important in terms, okay, what is making the life easier, and we have the ROI. This is our magic MVP, but still, we have to use common sense. It doesn't mean that if we build something like that, like here, it will be working software. No, sometimes we have to make something from here or even from here just in order that everything makes sense. So yeah, so we prepared everything and it's excellent, but still we have the question, okay, should we deliver everything? Not really, because again, there is a point in all the stuff that our users are happy because they have like enough features. If we have too many features and we continue to build the features, actually the tools is now getting awkward and awkward, more awkward and more awkward. It's harder to maintain and stuff like that. And also we just sometimes tend to think, okay, we are agile, we are delivering everything what customer wants. No. Again, we have to think, if we have similar feature, okay, if it exists, can we amend it to the needs of our customer? Okay, yeah. If it's not exist, do we have some different feature that it's not used and we can like delete it? I know it's like scary. Always when product people saying about delete, you think, oh my gosh, there should be trick behind it. And yeah, of course, it's terrifying. Just imagine the example I told you in the beginning. So you have development silo, testing silo, marketing, and sales. And just imagine that the sales people have this feature that you want to delete on their marketing sales materials. Marketing people have these beautiful features on the marketing materials. And let's say that the testers don't care, and you as a developer see, okay, nobody used that. I just put some kind of the tracking tool and nobody clicking that, so maybe we can get rid of that. So if you simply delete it, the other people from here, so the marketing and sales, will be really, really terrified when they will just showing the demo of the software, and previously the customer seen the leaflets with the certain functionality and functionality is missing. Oh my gosh, what happened? So yeah, so this is not easy path, so that's why we should communicate and ask, okay, we have a plan to make our software better, our performance will potentially increase, or at least stop decreasing, and we would like to get rid of the code. Really terrifying thoughts, surprisingly not for the development, but for the business part of the company, but help you to maintain the number of features. And usually there's a lot of talk, even if you are working like internal IT department and you want to convince someone from the business that actually deleting stuff will make things better, they don't believe. Because human beings are a bit greedy and they care for more and more, sometimes not understanding that it's bad. And again, if we have software that nobody uses, so let's say that our software is not popular, but we keep adding the features, basically we have like that cycle, so it's not working that way. Sometimes we think that if we deliver more and faster, because we have now Agile, we can deliver more and faster, it would be better. So this is again additional myth. And again, the scene of product people. So I have to confess, I did sometimes myself, so we just put a lot of wishes to the backlog and say, yeah, just deliver, it would be excellent. Oh, of course, it should be like the user-friendly, and easy to use. Not working that way. Okay, I'm all really not entertaining, or the word is not entertaining because you are not laughing, I don't know. Or maybe the reality is so sad and you're just seeing your company here and you want to cry, I don't know, but I expected laugh. Oh my, it's sad, okay. Okay, so this is supposed to be joke, okay, your life, okay. Okay, so this is supposed to be joke. Of course, the jokes shouldn't be, should be just funny. Okay, so moving forward, if we have more and more features, obviously, and if we add that it should be user-friendly, it's not working like that. And really sad statistics, I know, statistics often lie, so statistically me and my dog, we have like each for 3 legs, which is obviously not true. But if we just compare the size of the projects, so the smaller one, it's like easier to make the success. Why? Because again, timeline is different. If you have the projects that take several years, so even if everything was really excellent from development point of view and we deliver all the requirements, reality changed, especially in the 21st century. Now we have like, I don't know, Internet of Things or, a lot of fancy stuff. Or we start the projects when monolithic architecture was like, let's say, trendy. Right now we have microservices and we decided that actually it's not truly really good design and we decide to refactor during the project, yeah? So if we have long timeline, it's simply more difficult. Again, there are few success stories. Those statistics are basically connected with the research done in US, so this is also slightly different environment there, and there is a lot of startups in this part as well, so it's really hard to say if something that was simply put to the production but not have any income is a success or not. But anyway, it was put to the production within time and budget, so that's why I was getting here. So again, if we can divide our beautiful product that we want to build in smaller chunks, I don't know, modules, and deliver slowly in the small parts, it's actually really, increasing, at least from statistical point of view, our chance for success. And again, it's easy to say if you are like internal IT company, because you can go to your stakeholders and say, okay, you can start using the software after a few months. And they're, oh really? Oh yeah, but there's like one small trick. There's not everything there, it's like the only one process. And usually they're agreeing because they want something really fast. If you're like in big company, you have to try to convince people, okay, why? Because you can sell the first module after 6 months instead of waiting 5 years. So what about that? So if you say the magic word sale, maybe someone will be tempted. Usually after those 6 months, it will be like more beta product, so maybe you won't be able to sell it, but you can have the feedback. The customers, when they start using the product, they can recommend your company to the another customers, of course, depending on the industry. So there is several ideas behind this, that you can actually try to convince your business people or your marketing and sales to make smaller chunks. If they don't believe you can send them the link to this report. There is a lot of interesting stuff connected with statistics with building the product. So this is one of them. There are a bit more terrifying as well. Okay, so we have some kind of the plan, let's say, and the next stuff that we usually are asked for, it's like estimates. Excellent. And according to estimates, we have the project plan. Okay, you're laughing. It's not too bad. Not too bad. I'm really glad. So again, usually software development is compared to the buildings. Excellent, but buildings are tangible. And even in buildings, we sometimes have problems with estimating when we finish. Or roads. Excellent example. I have heard a lot of talks when the software development was compared to the roads. And I'm thinking about the Polish roads, and I'm thinking, okay, those people weren't living in Poland, really. So if we want to compare the software development to building Polish roads, maybe we are right, because usually our Polish roads are late for those who are not from Poland. So maybe then the comparison is good. But usually it's really not that simple, as again, we have a lot of dependencies. So just imagine you have the integration project and you are really depending on the API that is built for the external company. So before they even give you opportunity to integrate with their product, they have to deliver kind of the API. So your timeline is depending on them. So how you can estimate this? It's really hard because they can be late as well. So you cannot depend on that. Even if you have everything built internally and the product is simply big because have several modules, we said that they are chunked and they are sold separately, but again, they are dependency on the other people. So let's say even if you have small product, again, something could make, just simply harder than you thought in the first place, or the requirements changed, surprisingly. Yeah, so I think this is another stuff that we still really strongly believe that there will be some point in time that the requirements won't change. No. There is probably some kind of the approximation in those requirements, obviously, because if you have some kind of the company, let's say a retail company, basic needs are always the same, but small part of the implementation that are connected with your software will change because, for example, law will change, there will be like new exciting technology that is introduced and you have to adapt. And there is a plenty stuff around that. So basically, plan in the long term, it's really, really hard. It's just really hard to make it. So instead of making it everything in Excel or any other tool, Gantt charts, project management charts, or any other tools, maybe we can simply think about giving like the rough idea. Because again, what Excel actually do, instead of having estimates of something that is uncertain, we suddenly commit to something. Really, in the minds of the management, when they see the numbers, and especially if they see like the numbers of day or month, they see commitment. And it's really hard to say them that it's like guessing. And really, if you don't put like the, let's say, the time frame from, let's say, month to half a year, it's really later on hard to say, okay, actually this was estimation, so we were not certain that we finished then. It's like more or less then. You can expect it to have it's like after half a year, but you cannot expect to have like certain date. So again, just don't go to the trap and give the really accurate estimates, because later on someone will go to you, especially in the huge companies that try to be agile but not necessarily understand what this means, that you committed to that date, so it should be delivered exactly that date. And anyone who worked in a huge company probably will agree. Why Excels are bad as well? Because we sometimes give story points and in really good faith. And then there is like magic formula that transfer it for, everything like money, time, blah, blah, blah. And we suddenly have the commitment even without our knowledge. So that's why, again, if someone asks you for estimation, just ask why. If they will say you, okay, because we need to have like the timeline for a customer. Okay, then say, okay, right, but remember, don't put the like exact date with dates, but time range. That is like between certain time frame. Again, if we have the backlog for 2 years ahead ready, there is another stuff that is really sad. We don't have time for amending the features that we actually develop. And if we have estimated everything 2 years ahead, we have really bad commitment as well, and everything, even if we have time range, people expect to have something. And even though reality changed and the people actually don't need the feature anymore, in their heads, there is this funny stuff that they expect to see it, even though they won't use it. So that's why it's better to have smaller chunks, deliver it, validate if it's okay, if it's fine, maybe we need to amend something, amend it, and then move forward for another feature, and so on and so on. And give the rough estimates, especially if you have like really huge projects. This is like really easy mathematical truth, and I think it really suits the estimation for the software development. So if something is really huge, no matter what you give, probably it will be more or less wrong or more or less good. So it's no point of wasting time on of thinking about really sophisticated estimates. I've seen a lot of talks connected with having nice metrics, and I agree that we should have metrics connected with, performance and the influence on the software, on the, let's say, the business process and stuff like that. But in terms of the estimates of the time when we finish, again, rather guessing the brackets than giving something accurate. And if someone tells you, no, the other team is so excellent in estimation, just don't believe them, because usually they just correct the Excels later on, for example. So no point. Okay, almost last stuff, silos. So again, if we have those developer testers and so on, it's really hard to communicate. And we try to be agile, of course, in that environment, but it's especially difficult if you are the only agile team and the rest is doing the waterfall stuff. So let's say you have marketing team that should deliver you the requirements, and you really want to make it iterative. You really want to make them, guys, we make it better. We deliver to the customers faster. It will be really brilliant. And they say, no, you have requirements for 2 years ahead. No changes there. So then it's really, really difficult, and actually it's really difficult to convince them to change. Here it's really important to have the support from someone above in the company. Not so easy usually, but there are a few success stories even at this room or at this conference. So I cross my fingers for everyone that it could work if everyone at least understand. So if the other parts of the company don't want to work Agile, at least they deliver their part of the Agile stuff, so let's say the requirements or something like that. Recently I was really nicely surprised. I'm currently working in a company where first of all the business understands Agile and works more or less in an Agile way like the whole company. And moreover, they understand that they can do workarounds. So if we deliver them something and instead of one click, they have to click 3 times, they are completely happy because they can do the business goal they have. So they say, okay, we can wait for 1 more month or 2 months, just don't worry, we have workaround, it's excellent because it's simplified. Oh my gosh, yeah, that happens. But this was connected with the really hard work in the company in terms of showing that actually delivering software earlier, even if it's not completely, finished, can simplify the business processes and the company can see profits earlier. So this helps you to break those silos. Again, showing the results. Because it's really tough to talk with someone if you are taking only the ideas. Because ideas are brilliant, but business people want profits. Okay, the last question. Scale or not to scale? I think this is the really difficult one because some people are for scaling Agile or Scrum or whatever, and some says, okay, it's impossible to scale Agile. For me, Agile is philosophy. So you can have values, Agile values, it's like not connected with the scale, I hope, at least. It's not so easy in the big companies as well because they tend to have the standardization or want to have standardization just, again, for carving for some kind of the predictability. So just imagine you have 10,000 employees and you want to be at least able to predict a small part of the work that they are doing. And if you are saying, okay, we have Agile, so it's kind of anarchy, we don't know when we deliver, basically we don't have any plans, we don't have documentation and stuff like that. And people are, oh my gosh, what they are doing, yeah? So they want to have control, so that's why they want to have standardization. It's fine if the standardization allows to have some smaller tweaks at least. It's not totally fine if you have like the, Agile process, because if you remember the Agile principle, so if you have Agile process, you have to really think if it's still Agile. Okay, so the question to scale or not to scale, I'll leave it for you guys. I hope that everyone can answer for its own environment. As I said, context is a king, so remember to apply everything in a context. Because there isn't a lot of time left, I try to quickly wrap up. So remember, the process is not the most important stuff. So the people who are building the software and how they are adapting the process to their needs, this is the key to success. Agile, Scrum, Kanban, whatever you choose to develop your software, it's not the religion. It's not worth to be fanatic of it. Amend it, mix it, make it just work. And even if you have only the iterations, and the iterations are in the your development silo, it's completely fine. Maybe it's not Agile, but if it helps you, it's fine, really. Maybe I wouldn't name it again Agile because then some other people who are more religious in those terms will be like a bit disappointed and frustrated, but really iterations are fine and you shouldn't be like forced to have everything from Agile. Documentation, again, have balance. So if you can have automated tests, if you can have like nice graphs, it's more than enough, because anyway, if you receive the 100 page of documentation, no one reads it. So remember about scary talking thing, really, this is really important. And remember of having the vision, not necessarily really detailed user stories up front. So again, when you are trying to do the Agile, just focus on the root cause, not on symptoms. So if you have the problems with the tool, so you cannot manage the stories, maybe it's not the tool fault. Maybe if you have 10,000 user stories, it's simply too much to manage in the tool. So think about that. So again, if you have Excels with estimates, not really, especially if you have only everything based on Excel and all stuff that you are doing with your software is based on Excel, not working as well. Iterations are not only way of doing stuff as well, so I talk about it really frequently, but if you decide to do the software in a Kanban way, it's fine as well. Agile is about adapting. If you decide to have only iterations from Agile, it's fine. Just communicate that you are doing only this part. Terms of planning, good to have a vision, not necessarily detailed plan. Good to have the idea when we finish in terms of some kind of the brackets, but not necessarily detailed deadlines. Good to have the balance between the number of features in your software. So remember that when your software became heavy and your UX designers have problem with fitting the new feature, maybe it's the time to think about deleting, not adding. Again, if you have silos, at least try to talk with people from the other silos, just to agree, maybe we can change something, small baby steps, because usually the human beings are the most important, not the methodology we use. And this is like my key message. Just remember to amend, and remember that despite the silos, despite everything, we should create a team to have like nice and working software. So that's it from me. Thank you for your attention. I know you have some questions. Okay, I think this sign that no. Okay. I know it's like the party time, so yeah, we should go really fast to have like good place on Plaza. So thank you once again. I see the question. Yeah.
It's a simple one. Like
yeah.
How you can plan the budget if you have no estimations? How you should plan the budget for the year?
Okay, so budget is a tricky part as well. You can. Okay, sorry. I think I should go there that way. So if you have the traditional budgeting in the year time, it's really difficult. But you can say, okay, I have 5 developers. I'm giving like 3 months time to have the initial part of the module, and then we check if the project has sense or not. If it had sense, we add additional 3 months. If we can deploy and sell, it's success. If not, we are just finishing the project. Why? Because this, again, gives you possibility to fail. Because you have some kind of the assumption. After 3 months, you are not wasting a lot of money. It's easy to estimate because you have, let's say, 5 developers. And you can basically estimate how much the 5 developers will earn within 5 months, yeah? And then you can validate if the project has sense or not. You can say that it's really easy if you have small projects. But again, if you work on dividing, or if you have like change requests to existing projects, you actually can construct budget in that way. It requires the conversation with, of course, your management, with a lot of people around you. I'm currently working in that manner, that the projects are in small chunks, and after 3 months, they were validating, okay, if it's sense to deliver more. And if we have green light, we just planning more for the next 3 months. And I have to say it's quite nicely working. I've also seen that few projects were like killed after those 3 months because they didn't have they actually didn't meet the expectations of the business. So they see, actually it's not simplifying our process, we cannot earn on that, so it's no point on wasting the money. So this is the one way. Hope answer your question. It's not really the traditional way, and I understand because also I work in a company that was software vendor, and I think that if I say to them, okay, let's deliver like 3 months and then check, they would say, come on, we have like, 5 teams of developers, and even for the 5 teams of developers, 3 months of work is like really a lot of money, and we cannot afford to, validate in that way. But again, dividing it for the smaller parts in the relatively small projects or the change request can work. Yeah. Could you repeat? I work in a distributed team, and it was challenging, but it worked. And I would say that it all depends on the company culture and how they maintain the distributed team. So if you allow people to travel to meet the people with whom you are working, it's fine. If you have only distributed team and people are working in different time zones and communicating via Jira comments, not really. So it all depends on the people who actually try to manage the team and how they make the stuff working. Also, I have few friends who are working like in the companies like Software Mill, and they are putting a lot of attention in terms of, okay, everyone like working from home or any way they want, and they are put a lot of effort to like bring team together, and it's working, the team is really working well. So I would say that everything depends. Yeah. No more questions? So thank you, and have a nice evening.